90% of the windows in this country are installed wrong, not the window itself. The window is fine. It's the hole it sits in, and what the installer did or didn't do around that hole. Right now, behind the trim you painted last summer, water is finding its way into the wood frame of your house. You can't see it. You won't smell it for years. But it's there, wicking down the studs, turning solid lumber into something the color of wet cardboard. And the day you finally do see it, the bill starts at $4,000. You're standing in a living room in Ohio. Nice house, built in 2006, back when everybody was building fast and cheap and calling it progress. The homeowner called me because the paint under the big front window keeps bubbling. She's repainted it twice. It comes back every spring, always in the same spot, always at the bottom corner. She thinks it's cheap paint. She thinks she needs a better primer. She's been to the hardware store 3 times looking for a stain-blocking sealer that'll finally hold. I put my hand flat on the wall under the window. It's cool, cooler than the wall next to it, and it's the same afternoon, same room, same sun. That's the first thing. Cool means damp, and damp means water is living somewhere it shouldn't. I press with my thumb, right at the bottom corner where the trim meets the sill. The drywall gives. Just a little. Just enough. A solid wall doesn't do that. A solid wall pushes back and tells you, no, this one gave like a ripe peach. I go outside. It's a gray afternoon, that flat Midwest light that hides nothing and flatters nobody. I look up at the window from the yard. The caulk around the outside is beautiful. Thick, white, smooth, tooled clean with a wet finger. Somebody took real pride in that bead of caulk, and that bead of caulk is exactly the problem. They ran it all the way around the window, all 4 sides, top sides and the bottom. They sealed it up tight like a jar of preserves and set it on the shelf. Here's what nobody tells you. A window is not supposed to be a sealed jar. A window is supposed to be able to drain. Water always gets behind the trim. Wind drives rain sideways. It sneaks past the siding. It runs down the wall inside the wall. That's normal. That's expected. The whole system is designed to let that water find its way back out at the bottom. But when you caulk the bottom shut, the water goes in and it can't come out. It just sits there, in the wall, against the wood, doing what water does to wood. I take my moisture meter and I put the 2 pins into the drywall under that corner. The needle swings. Not a little. It buries itself. 99%. That's not damp. That's saturated. That's a wall that's been drinking for years and never once had a chance to sober up. In 35 years and more than 10,000 inspections across the Midwest, I can count on one hand the number of window installs I've seen done completely right. That's not an exaggeration for a video. That's the number. 5, maybe 6 houses out of 10,000. And every one of those 6, somebody stood there and did the boring part. The part that doesn't show. The part nobody pays extra for. Let me show you what's under that pretty caulk. I pull the interior trim off. The nails come out with a squeak, that little cry old finish nails make, and behind the casing, I find it. The wood framing around the window, the rough opening, it's black, not brown. Black, streaked with white and gray where the water dried and left minerals behind, then got wet again, over and over, season after season. There's a smell, too. Pull that trim and lean in and you'll get it. That flat, earthy, basement in August smell. That's fungus breathing. The bottom plate, that horizontal piece of wood the windowsill sits on, I push my screwdriver into it and it goes in like it's going into a stick of cold butter. No resistance, right up to the handle. That's rot. That's fungus that has eaten the cellulose out of the wood and left behind a sponge that's holding the window up out of habit. I run my thumbnail along the sheathing behind it and it peels like a wet paper bag. Now, here's what should have been there. Behind every window, before the window ever goes in, there's supposed to be a layer of protection built in the right order. First, the house wrap, the white or the pink stuff you see flapping on new construction, cut and folded into the opening. Then flashing tape. That's a peel and stick membrane, black or white, that seals the bottom of the opening and the 2 sides. And critically, there's supposed to be a sill pan. A sill pan is a little tray, sometimes molded plastic, sometimes just formed from flashing tape over a beveled shim that sits under the window and catches any water that gets past everything else and directs it back out to the world. It's a slide. It's a ramp for water to leave. It's the one part that assumes everything else will fail and plans for it anyway. None of that was here. There was no sill pan. There was no flashing tape. There was one strip of house wrap that somebody had cut and let flap loose. Not folded, not taped, just tucked behind the window like a receipt shoved in a glove box. The window was shoved into the hole, screwed to the studs, and then the whole thing was buried in that beautiful caulk. That was the waterproofing. A tube of caulk from the hardware store. 99 cents at the time, probably. One tube did the whole house, and there was change left over. This is the guy who's paid by the job and not by the hour. He's got 6 windows to hang before lunch, and 4 more houses this week. Flashing tape takes time. You have to clean the surface so it bonds, you have to cut it to length, you have to roll it down with a hand roller so the adhesive actually grabs and doesn't lift at the corner in 2 winters. The sill pan takes time. You have to dry fit it, slope it, seal the back dam. Caulk takes 30 seconds aside and it looks finished. It looks great. It looks better than the right way looks, and that's the trap. The homeowner walks the house, sees clean white caulk, and signs off. Nobody's tearing the trim off on move-in day. The failure is invisible for years, and by the time it shows, that installer is 3 states away and running a different crew under a different name. I want to be fair to the people who used to live here. They didn't do this. They bought a finished house and trusted that the window in the wall was a window in the wall. That's a reasonable thing to trust. You don't buy a car and expect to check whether they bolted the wheels on. They're victims of this too. They just didn't know it yet. And the house wasn't going to tell them until it was expensive. Let me put real numbers on this, because this is where it stops being a lecture and starts being your money. The part that would have prevented all of it. A sill pan for a standard window runs about $15 to $25. A roll of quality flashing tape, enough for several windows, is around $30. A can of low expansion foam, $10. Call it $40 of material per window to do it right. $40 and maybe 40 minutes. Now the failure that $40 would have stopped. Water sits in the framing. The wood rots. The rot spreads down the wall into the sheathing, the plywood or the OSB on the outside of your studs. Once the sheathing goes soft, the structure of that wall section is compromised, and that sheathing is what your siding hangs on and what braces the wall against the wind. And rot doesn't stay in one spot. It follows the water down, and water only goes one direction. Here's the repair. You're not caulking anything now. You're removing the window. You're removing siding on the outside. You're removing drywall on the inside. You're cutting out rotted framing and sistering in new lumber. You're replacing sheathing. You're reflashing the opening the right way, finally, and setting the window back with a proper sill pan. And you're putting the wall back together. Siding, drywall, insulation, paint, and matching the paint to the rest of the room, which is a job all by itself. On one window, that's $4,000 to $7,000. If the rot has traveled and hit a corner or a floor joist or the band board, you're into 5 figures and you're talking to a structural guy. That's the micro cost against the macro consequence. $40 of tape and a plastic tray, skipped becomes a $7,000 wall. And if you've got a whole house of windows done the same day by the same crew, you don't have one problem. You have 12 of them, all aging at the same rate, all on the same clock. There's a monthly bleed too. A window that's leaking water is almost always leaking air. That saturated framing, that gap the installer never sealed with the right foam, that's a hole in your building envelope. You're paying to heat air that's escaping and cool air that's leaking in. The Department of Energy will tell you air leaks around windows and doors are one of the biggest sources of wasted heating and cooling in a typical home. It's not the biggest number on this list, but it's real, and it shows up on every bill, every month, quietly, whether or not anyone's home. Now, stay with me, because the next part is the difference between paying $40 once and paying $4,000 later. And it comes down to one rule almost nobody follows. Why does this happen so consistently? It's the water. Water always moves down and it always moves out, given the chance. The entire job of a window install is managing gravity. You layer your materials like shingles on a roof. The upper piece always laps over the top of the lower piece, so water running down the wall runs over the seam, not into it. House wrap over the top flashing over the sides, sides over the bottom, and the bottom drains onto the sill pan, and the sill pan drains out. Every layer sheds onto the one below it. It's not clever. It's not a trade secret. It's simple. It's just gravity and patience is the part that costs money by the hour. Here's the rule. Write it on the wall. Flash the top and the sides. Never caulk the bottom exterior seam shut. The bottom has to breathe and drain, or the water has nowhere to go but into your house. That's it. That's the whole thing. The bead of caulk that looked like good work was the thing that killed the wall. Good intentions, wrong direction. So let's talk about doing it right, whether you're installing new or fixing what you've got. Start with a clean, square opening. House wrap should already be on the wall. You cut it into the opening in an I shape, you fold the two side flaps in, you fold the bottom flap in over the sill, and you fold the top flap up and tape it out of the way for now. That top flap comes back later, and the order matters more than anything else in the whole job. Then the sill pan. This is the piece everybody skips, and it's the most important one. You install a sill pan across the bottom of the opening, sloped slightly toward the outside so water runs out, not in. A 1/4 inch of slope over the depth of the sill is plenty. You can buy a molded pan, or you can form one with flashing tape and a beveled shim to create the slope. Either way, you want a back dam, a little lip at the inside edge, so water that lands in the pan can't run backward into the house. Seal the corners. The corners are where every pan fails, so treat them like they matter, because they do. This is the tray that catches everything the rest of the wall misses. Then you set the window. You shim it level and plumb, and you check it with a real level, not by eye, because a window that's out of square will bind and the seals will fail early. You screw or nail it per the manufacturer's spec, not more, not less, and through the shims so you're not bowing the frame when you tighten down. Then you flash the sides with tape, running it over the window's mounting flange and onto the house wrap, and you roll it down. Then the top flashing goes over the top flange, same way, lapped and rolled. And now you fold that top flap of house wrap back down over the top flashing and tape it. See the order? Sill pan, window, sides, top, and every piece laps over the one below. Water hits any seam and gets sent outward and downward every time, with no vote in the matter. Inside, you seal the gap between the window frame and the framing with low expansion window foam. Low expansion. Read the can. The regular stuff will bow your frame and you'll never open the window again, and I've met that window in a dozen houses. On the exterior, you caulk the top and the two sides. You leave the bottom open, a small gap, so the sill pan can drain. If it makes you nervous to leave a gap, good. That nervous feeling is exactly what got that Ohio wall caulked shut. Now the good, better, best. If you're on a tight budget and you can't pull the whole window, the honest patch is what I call a corrective drain. You carefully remove the bottom exterior caulk bead that's trapping the water, and you cut small weep gaps at the corners so the wall can finally dry out. Materials, under $20, and an afternoon. That's a Band-Aid, but a Band-Aid that lets a wall breathe beats a sealed wall that's quietly rotting. Better is a proper reflash from the outside. You remove the window, install a real sill pan and full flashing, and reset it. If you're handy, that's a weekend and about $150 in materials per window. If you hire it out, figure $400 to $800 a window, depending on your area and your siding. Best is full replacement with new windows and correct flashing, done by a crew that will actually show you the sill pan before they set the glass. That's $1,000 to $2,000 per window installed, and it's worth every dollar if you insist on watching the flashing go in. Ask before they start. A good crew is proud to show you. The other kind gets quiet. Here's the honest limitation. You can flash a window perfectly and still get water if your siding or your roof above is dumping water at it. Flashing manages the water that reaches the opening. It can't fix a bad gutter, a missing kickout flashing 40 feet up, or a valley pouring a river onto the wall above the window. Look at the whole wall, not just the hole. And here's when you call a licensed pro. The moment your screwdriver sinks into that framing like it did in Ohio, you're past caulk and past weekend work. Structural lumber is not a DIY afternoon because you can't see how far it traveled until you open the wall, and you don't want to guess with a load-bearing header over your head. Get a contractor who understands water management and make them explain the sill pan to you before they start. Let me tell you how the Ohio house ended. We opened that wall and the rot had traveled about 18 inches down both sides of the opening and across the entire bottom plate. The sheathing behind it was gone. Just black paper you could tear with your fingers like it was a wet grocery sack. One of the studs had gone spongy at the base. The repair, one window, came to $5,100. New framing, new sheathing, a real sill pan, proper flashing, insulation, siding, drywall, paint. Then we checked the other 11 windows in that house. Same installer, same beautiful caulk, same nothing behind it. 9 of the 11 were already wet on the meter. 2 hadn't started yet, and those 2 were the 2 under the deep porch roof where the rain never reached them. That told me everything. It wasn't bad luck. It was water finding the openings that weren't protected. She caught the other 10 before they hit the $4,000 mark. We drained them, reflashed the worst ones, and put her on a schedule. The bubbling paint under the front window never came back, because the paint was never the problem. The paint was just the wall telling her the truth. One bubble at a time, in the only language a wall has. You will pay for this window one way or the other. You pay $40 of tape today while the wall is dry, or you pay $5,000 later when it isn't. The wall doesn't care which one you choose. It just keeps drinking. The window guys are going to disagree with me in the comments. They'll tell me caulking the bottom is fine. That's how they've always done it, and their houses aren't falling down. Let them. I only report what I find, and what I find is black framing behind white caulk. So do this. Go look at your windows tonight, from the outside, and tell me one thing. Is the bottom exterior seam caulked shut or can it drain? And tell me your state and the year your house was built, because I can almost guess what's behind your trim by the decade alone. And while you've got that flashlight out, ask yourself the next question, the one I get called about right after the windows. If the wall under the window is wet, where do you think all that water finally ends up down at the bottom of the house?